What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Game Day Playbook live show. We are kicking off the week here with an 8-game main slate that includes a starting pitcher that is a minus 160 to get the win here today, which is a line that I don't think I've seen maybe this year. We've seen like some minus 110s, some plus 100s here. We even have a plus 100 on the slate as well. Yeah, so it should be pretty interesting to see where the chalk goes, where we're expecting the chalk to go here on this 8-game main slate. James was on the playbook that is live over on Fantasy Alarm for everybody to go check out as well. We did the preview show this morning and gave you our thoughts, but we have some official lineups out now, so we can kind of rehash some of those takes, get an example lineup for you all, answer your starting lineup questions, your betting questions, your pick'em questions. We got them all here for you today. James, my buddy, man, how we doing?
Doing well. Yeah, we actually recent update, John. Brandon Pfaadt of the Arizona Diamondbacks also in trending in Luis Gil territory for today. So
Okay, he was plus 100 this morning. Is he now in the minuses?
We are well within the minuses.
There
So
you go.
we have two pitchers, and this is something that you and I will just track for remainder of season, especially when like White Sox are on the slate. I think it's the most interesting. They're at home, and we're getting a minus 160 outright winner in Luis Gil, which I think is incredibly interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is a fun slate. I think there's dynamic pitching at the top. There's not a lot to like in the rest of the pitching tier, but that obviously presents a lot of offensive firepower. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Not a lot of weather.
Yeah.
We have some good offensive run totals for a couple teams. So yeah, I'm ready for the breakdown.
Yeah, let's jump into it. And guys, we appreciate you all tuning in here with us. If you haven't already hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button over on YouTube, over on X. It is a free way to support the work we do here over at Fantasy Alarm. It helps us out immensely, more than you guys could imagine, simply by just clicking that one button. So if you have a moment, please do so. As we jump into today's starting pitching, top two price guys on the slate, Chris Sale and Blake Snell, are going up against one another. Chris Sale is $10,500, so a massive price difference between he and the rest of the slate. Blake Snell at 93, Freddie Peralta at 93, Pablo Lopez at 92, and Luis Gil, who we mentioned, at $9,000 here. We'll just start with Luis Gil because he is, again, last I saw he was minus 160, minus 150 in that range to win today. Again, that is a line generally you see for a team to get a win. A pitcher is usually closer to plus 100 or plus 120 as heavy favorites here. So being that big of a favorite on tonight's slate, he has faced them once already this season. Career high 14 strikeouts, I think it was, in that game. 6 innings, 1 earned run allowed. I did the pick and plays today. I took the under 1.5 earned for Luis Gil today against the White Sox. So you, me, and everybody else, we assume is starting their lineups there today. Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but we at least feel that's the way most people are going to be going today. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, per dollar, like there's obviously very good pitching today. You mentioned Chris Sale, Blake Snell. Those two have elite strikeout stuff. Luis Gil, for the most part, has had elite strikeout stuff. Obviously hit a little bit of a wall, but has kind of rectified that over his last 5 starts. And in like 4 of them, I mean, 4 potential playoff teams, or at least teams that have been competing for the playoffs outside the Angels. So I love Luis Gil today. There's obvious strikeout upside. The one thing that you just have to worry about sometimes with Luis Gil is the control. We saw it in the last 2 starts. 5 walks, 3 walks. And because of that, you don't get the extended version of Luis Gil that we were kind of getting earlier in the year, where he was consistently pitching through and into the 6, 7, and even finished 8 once. So that's your only real concern. White Sox obviously are last or second to last in every offensive category over the course of the year, or the course of last month. They have the 4th highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. So, like, yeah, it's hard to ignore a starting pitcher that is projected to pick up a win at minus 160. Like that, you just don't see that. And, you know, to that point, the Yankees have 5.9 implied runs today.
Right.
That's a Coors Field number. That is a number that you don't see very often outside of Coors Field or Great American
Yeah.
against that pitcher. Like those are the lone parks, and this is in Chicago on a Monday night. So that just goes to show you what Luis Gil has in his favor. No Luis Robert tonight. Not that Luis Robert has been at all good, but like
One of the few representable major league bats in that lineup.
right, like he is the one person that like not one, but like one of the few people in that lineup that typically does any damage.
Yeah.
So I think all signs point to Luis Gil being one of your two pitchers, and on one pitcher sites, starting your cash game builds there.
Yeah.
But obviously, like there's no shortage of top end talent. So if you are playing a tournament, you can get different and go away from Luis Gil. But I do think like single entries and cash games, Gil should be included.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. How are you approaching the top pitching matchups here, Sale versus Snell? Again, we talked extensively about both of these teams and their high strikeout rates against left-handed pitching over the last month. In particularly now, San Francisco carries a high strikeout rate with some pretty impressive overall numbers against left-handed pitching, while Atlanta has struggled. Thoughts on Snell versus Sale tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I like them both. I think the more popular decision is just to save $1,200. That could also get you like the difference between getting Aaron Judge and Soto or both possibly. So I think Snell will be the more popular of the two. But like we've talked about this in like every sport we've ever covered here in DFS. Like sometimes you just look at a situation where, yeah, this game has a 6.5 implied run total. There's two elite pitchers. One of them's going to be more popular than the other because they're $1,200 cheaper. But that doesn't mean Chris Sale can't have 15 strikeouts tonight and you'll be like, oh, wow, Chris Sale had 15 strikeouts. What a surprise. Chris Sale's been one of the best pitchers across baseball the entire year. I would say like both pitchers, there's like a case to get to. Sale is $1,200 more, so he'll be the less popular of the two. But I'm also not ignoring a guy with a 33% strikeout rate. We haven't seen this Chris Sale in a couple of years, so like it's still like I don't know if people get sticker shock by it, but I'm not shying away from either. I think Snell is the more popular of the two just because the salary, but just because the salary could get you a lower owned Chris Sale, and Chris Sale can give you a 40 bomb, and you're like, oh wow, now I have Chris Sale plus bats because we're going to talk about some very cheap offensive bats that you can, I don't think there's really any scenario where you're like not comfortably getting high end pitching plus bats tonight because there's a lot of value everywhere. So I like them both. If Sale is where you like plant your flag, then I think that's perfectly fine because he'll be lower owned than the cheaper Snell.
Yeah, I lean Snell for me, not just for the price here, but just again, if you even look at some of the overall numbers for tonight, Vegas wise, they're pretty heavy on Snell as well. And some of the matchups just recently, again, we've talked about the strike rate, 33.1%, I think was the K rate for Atlanta against left-handed pitching over the last 30 days. Snell himself has obviously been pretty gross over the last couple of starts, the 15 strikeout game, the 11 strikeout game. So a lot to like about Blake Snell. Peralta and Lopez, I mean, not great matchups. They're both home at least. I mean, obviously Lopez has had his struggles. Just full off your board today?
No, I don't think they're fall off my board. They're not priorities over the others. But I do think like I know the Dodgers like these numbers not included is Mookie Betts, obviously, but they have over the last month the 5th highest strikeout rate in baseball against righties. So would I play Freddie Peralta in a large field tournament? I would, just because there's insert your strikeout arm versus team striking out a lot, and like usually that thing works out quite well. So like Peralta in tournaments is fine, and I think Pablo Lopez. I've said it to you all year. Like, was he good against the Cubs? No, he wasn't. Did he miss bats against the Cubs? No, he didn't. But Pablo Lopez has a massive ceiling. We've seen it on multiple occasions this year, and has been suffering from a lot of bad luck. So I'm not crossing him off my board, but not priorities over the others, and only would play them in tournaments.
Agreed. We got a lot of people obviously in our chat. We appreciate you guys. Justin's in there. Octavius talking about Brandon Pfaadt, who's our next starting pitcher below Louis Heel. Our guy Don's in the chat. Go wants us to come to Boston. It says fear the San Francisco Bats. And DePrince is late. DePrince, I'll tell you right now, you're one starting pitcher for FanDuel tonight, Louis Heel. So that's where you want to going to go over there. And Cam the Man popping in chat as well. Talk Brandon Pfaadt. You mentioned his line now moving stronger in the direction of getting the win. Maybe Ketel Marte being active tonight has a little bit more to do with the line movement with Pfaadt as well in their matchup going up against Colorado here. We liked him last night. If you're looking to go Heel Pfaadt, I could see a lot of combos there. The lineup we built this morning had Snell and Heel in that lineup. You'll be saving yourselves, $800. Some of us need an extra $100 to fill a guy in a lineup. That could work that way.
I always find it interesting when you're looking at sports books and you notice a few things, right? Like when a guy who doesn't really miss bats has a abnormal strikeout line. Like Brandon Pfaadt's opening line today, John, was 7.5 for strikeouts, right? Brandon Pfaadt has a 22% strikeout rate this year. He's not exactly a guy who misses a ton of bats. I'm not saying he doesn't have that upside, because he has some big strikeout games on his ledger this year, but only once has he gone over 10, and it was against Seattle, in Seattle, which I think early year Seattle in Seattle is that is the dream spot for opposing pitchers. But he opened at 7.5, and that was nuked, and it's now 6.5. But juice on the over, and he's now minus 120 to pick up a win. You said it was plus 110 earlier, or plus 100. Moved to minus 120, minus 135 on the over, 6.5 strikeouts. There's a lot to like about Brandon Pfaadt, and that's kind of been the Rockies' MO all year. 27% strikeout rate on the road against right-handed pitching this year. 28th in OPS, 28th in WOBA. They're a bad offense when it comes to being away from Coors Field and facing right-handed pitching. So that is also a reason why I wouldn't prioritize Peralta or Lopez, because I like the two guys below him better, Heel and Pfaadt. And that's really the extent of it. I think a combination of Sale, Snell, Heel, Pfaadt just makes too much sense to really get anything else. I know we have to talk about everything else here, but I really would prefer not to. And
I was gonna say, we really only had one other guy that we even spent more than a half a second on this morning, and that was value. You looked at Bowden Francis, given his matchup against the Angels. That would be the value play. Has that changed for you at all since this morning?
No. It hasn't. And I didn't even if you go to fantasyalarm.com, I have the playbook live now. I didn't even include him. I didn't include him in the core play section. I included Bowden Francis in the player grid in my player pool. He's in the player pool, but he's not a priority for me. If you need to spend down, I've liked the strikeout stuff out of him as a starter this year, or anytime he's been extended. The Angels strike out about 24% of the time over the last month against righties. So you can make a case for Bowden Francis, but I think there's enough value on offense that it doesn't feel necessary unless you're
you're literally stacking your lineup Soto, Judge,
and then
Marte,
that's exactly right. That's your condition where you're not basically double spending on pitcher tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, moving on over then to catcher. We know where we want to go. Do you want to talk about anybody else first?
No. No. That's the highest rostered player of the slate. Look, it does not matter the outcome, right? The outcome in this scenario, we talk about it all the time. You can punt catcher whenever. You have a $2,100 catcher sitting in the middle the middle of this potent lineup, where you look at the last month, every player in this lineup has 1,000 OPS against right-handed pitching. If you just go to Fangraphs, right, and you look at last month versus right-handed pitching, Arizona has 10 guys with 1,000 OPS. And this guy, who's played 3 games in the pros, is hitting 6th, right? Like, at $2,100 in a dream spot against a guy who's pitched 1 inning over AA. Not saying that pitcher is even a bad prospect, because he's actually kind of a good prospect. But, like, AA, 1 inning, right? It just, you're playing Del Castillo at $2,100 or go to jail, get thrown in jail, prison, maybe even prison, like high state. I'm just kidding, but like it just is it's like opportunity cost, right? He's $2,100 on a slate where you see Anthony in chat right now talking about Stanton and Soto, right? Like they're very not Stanton necessarily 4,600, but Soto's $6,400, right?
Yeah.
If you want to play Soto and Judge, you're paying almost $13,000 or over $13,000 of your salary just to play those 2 guys.
Yeah.
This is the exact reason why you just plug this $2,100 catcher and move on. Like, yeah, sure, there's other people.
Yeah, Anthony's saying Sal Perez not a catcher. The Twins overrated. I like Sal Perez. Play him at first.
You can play him at
Like,
first.
you can play him. You want the $2,100 cat. We say every night we come on this show. We're in August now. We've been doing this show since March. We spend down at catcher. We look for the value of catcher almost every single slate. And here we have a $2,100 catcher hitting 6th that has been absolutely lighting the world on fire in the 3 games that he's played. And a great matchup for him tonight. We're spending down. Can the man saying it's Reese Hines thing when he's so low, you just play him. Exactly. And at a position where, the variable outcomes of the catcher position, most catchers suck, right? So like, you might as well just spend the $2,100 for a guy that's hitting the balls better as anybody does. So you can do that as you want here. That's where we're going. I'm like you said, we're not even going to really recommend any other catchers. You can play other ones if you want. You can check out James's playbook. There are other catchers listed in the playbook. But we're going value town here.
That's what you think.
There may not be.
No, there is. There are. Joey Bart hitting 4th for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Joey Bart just picked him up in FSGA. Guys, that actually been the best catch over the last 30 days in fantasy baseball. So you got that going for you here. The Prince, 2,600. So FanDuel's obviously a little bit of a different animal because they don't require you to play a catcher.
Right. I probably, like, for an example, just off the top of my head, like a way that I would take value over there, like Giancarlo Stanton's $2,900 on FanDuel. Like, you don't need to play that, like, in that different, in $300 difference. Like, yeah, Josh Bell is like the same price as Del Castillo on FanDuel. Like, I just play Josh Bell, who we're gonna get to at first base right now. Like, I don't know. I don't think the 2,600 for Del Castillo makes it's just it's a position play on DraftKings is what it comes down to. Obviously, he's been good, but it is more of a position play. Yes, a lot of people are going to stack Arizona for sure, Anthony. Arizona and the Yankees. Those are the 2 teams with over 5-run implied totals. Boston was there until the Duran suspension, but Yankees are 5.9, Arizona 5.2. Those are your 2 teams over 5 implied runs. Easily going to be the 2 most popular teams on the board.
Yeah, 100%. Without a doubt, going to be your most popular. If we go over to first base here, though, again, guys, we've talked about spending up for this morning. I like Vladdy. You can certainly go there. Like to pass Cantino at 4,900 as my top 2 spends. If you want to go Dodgers, I'm not going to sit here and say don't play Ohtani and Freeman. You certainly can. I will say if you go look at the numbers, Peralta this year actually giving up more to righties than lefties. Yep. So not necessarily like the strongest splits, but again, we're talking Freeman and Ohtani. They can do damage against anybody. But for me, it's Vladdy or it's Pasquantino here up at the top.
Yeah, so the Davis Daniel thing is interesting. Righties are killing him. And unfortunately, no other righty in this Toronto lineup has like good numbers in the last handful of games, month.
Yeah.
But Vladdy has a 1,400 OPS, so he is not included in that. Davis Daniel against righties, that's the spot for me. Vladdy is, if you want a contrarian spend up, that's like still equally probably the upside as the Yankees. It's it's Vladdy, I would say, was
Yeah.
your top guy.
Agreed. And I mentioned, like, I like Pascantino hitting third against Lopez here. We've tried to, speak successful Lopez outings into existence. We've had some success. Other times he has been pretty trash. I don't think this is a spot where he's going to find much success here. Where do you go after this? I think we went Josh Bell at 3,500 as our next guy. Do you have anybody else?
No, I mean, you could play Rhys Hoskins. I don't think Kershaw has looked very good. All the peripheral numbers suggest he hasn't looked very good either. It's not like there's these underlying numbers that suggest he's going to get better. Those don't exist. Righty's sitting over 300, 350 WOBA. So Hoskins, a lot of power against lefty bats, a lot of power lately in general, would be the one guy I mentioned before getting to Josh Bell. But Josh Bell hitting fourth in the second best spot of the day. No real arguments there. I would say Nathaniel Lowe would probably be the next closest.
Yeah.
They moved Nathaniel Lowe up to fifth tonight. And we've talked about it. Like, Bayo's struggling with power. And he's struggling with lefty power.
Lefties, dude. Lefties has been such a problem. I was looking over today. I was writing up the pick'em articles. I did the Seager 1.5 total bases. Against righties, he has a 2.28 xFIP. Does Brian Bayo? Lefties is like 4.8. He just cannot. He just cannot get left. He has no left-handed out pitch. Supposed to be, his changeup away. Doesn't happen. He's supposedly working with Pedro on the changeup grip. Well, he doesn't have the Pedro changeup. I'll tell you that much. So I'm with you. If you want to go Rangers lefties here against Nathaniel Lowe, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Josh Bell is going to be the more popular of the two. So if you want the cheaper or the lesser owned exposure, it's Nathaniel Lowe for sure.
Yep, I agree. Anthony, I think we said the only like must play for us on one pitcher sites today was Louis Heel. We like him obviously on 2 pitcher sites as well. I think the strikeout upside for Blake Snell is tremendous, for sure. So if you want to go Blake Snell, yeah, man, like 100%. But if I was picking one starting pitcher tonight, it's Louis Heel. So that's where I'm going.
I think if I'm just gonna I'll throw out my top 4. I think Heel's 1. I might go Chris Sale 2, just because I think there's gonna be a discrepancy in ownership, and there's not a discrepancy in like talent and pitching. Snell 3, Fought 4. Those would be like my priorities.
Okay,
but I don't have a problem ranking Snell ahead of Sale.
Yeah, one of my props today, I took Matt Olson over 1.5 strikeouts as a demon projection over on Prize Picks here today. Blake Snell against lefties over his last 5 starts is like a 47% strikeout rate, and then Matt Olson over the last 30 days against lefties is a 48% strikeout rate. So the fact that they've given you boosted demon projections there on Prize Picks for the Olsen 1.5 strikeouts, I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I think he was even plus 140 on DraftKings over 1.5 Ks. So I was like, sign me up. Blake Snell getting Matt Olson out by K twice tonight. Feeling pretty strong about that. So, all right, let's go on. Was there any other first baseman? I know there's one guy we talked about at third last night.
We'll stick to that.
Okay. Second base then. Marte is in the lineup. He has $6,200 against Blaylock here. Obviously all world play, homered the day he got hurt and then missed the game and is back in the lineup. So obviously contusion wasn't that big of an issue for us here. Rest of the position we didn't even really like last night. So it still feels like it's Marte and then whatever the punt play ended up being for us last night.
I think there's been a little intrigue for me. Pittsburgh made a pitching change since last night. They were starting Marco Gonzalez. They're starting Jake Woodford today. Xander Bogaerts has been really good against right-handed pitching. So I'm not necessarily in love with a $4,700 Xander Bogaerts at this point, but he's been really good against righties. I think San Diego became one of the more sneaky stacks of the day with Woodford pitching. I mean, he has been a gas can to epic proportions every year of his career. So with him starting Xander, and then like obviously when we recorded last night, David Hamilton was likely going to bat ninth and not lead off. And now with the whole Duran situation, Hamilton's leading off at $4,500. I don't love it, but you've said it all the time. Like, he does have a ceiling. And also, I didn't like it because he's 4,500 hitting ninth, right? It's probably why a lot of people shy away from Ceddanne Rafaela, because he's been $4,000+ hitting eighth or ninth all year. So I would say Xander and Hamilton are a little bit interesting, but I do think the value at second base trumps both those plays anyway. Like
Yeah.
Glaber hitting sixth for the Yankees. He's been great against left-handed pitching over the last month. Over 1,000 OPS, 300 average, 300 ISO, which is surprising for a guy who struggled
Yeah.
for the latter part of this entire season. So I like Glaber at 36 in a Yankee stack. And then we kind of like were talking about the Gavin Lux, where he would hit in the lineup.
Yeah.
And he's hitting fifth with Mookie back. Like they're hitting him in front of Will Smith. So that's like just tells you how good Gavin Lux has been for the Dodgers lately. $3,100. Really, really good play. So I would say like my favorite 2 second basemen of the day are right there, 36 and 31.
Okay.
Per dollar, I think there's probably no one better than
Yeah, I won't argue with you. The only cheaper play I throw out is Nick Sogard. Not even just being a Red Sox fan, just he's been pretty good since getting called up there. We did lose our Oswaldo Cabrera $2,400 play. So that one kind of hurts a little bit there. Third base. Devers is your top guy, and price wise against Molly at 6K. You got Riley, Chapman, and Machado all there. Jazz lefty hitting seventh today, $5,100 for him. Royce Lewis is 49 against Singer. Thoughts on the top third baseman?
Yeah, I mean Devers is definitely in play. Dude, there was a lot of fly ball outs for Tyler Mahle in that debut.
Yeah,
which is definitely concerning going into Fenway. You should definitely lower your fly ball rate going into Fenway.
No Machado, by the way, tonight. Padres lineup just came out.
Interesting. Even with Machado hitting the bench, Jackson Merrill's still hitting sixth.
Our likely third base play though hitting fifth. So
yeah,
actually changed it. Not a lefty anymore.
Yeah, the Woodford. Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Devers 6K firmly in play. Machado's price on FanDuel was really appealing. I didn't really like it at 5,700 on FanDuel. Like Jazz, lefty, that doesn't bother me. I love the Royce Lewis price. I don't love the matchup necessarily. Brady Singer has been really good against right-handed batters. So, I do like Josh Smith hitting third at $3,800. Back-to-back multi-hit games for him in the Yankees series, and we just talked about the Brian Bayo struggles against lefties. So I do like Josh Smith. Also, little wrinkle in the Josh Smith stuff. You can play him in the outfield now. He has third base outfield eligibility.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. 3,800 hitting third. They switched the lineup again. Joey Ortiz, once again, hitting lefties really well. That's been, a recent trend over the last month. Back over a 900 OPS, 304 ISO, 385 WOBA against left-handed pitching. We talked about Kershaw has not looked really good in his first 3 starts. So I like Ortiz. But then, Donovan Solano, 2,900, hitting fifth. He has been incredible. Obviously not the lefty split. Still has spent a good amount of the year hitting righties well. I mean, he's hitting 313. So, that is something. And then DJ LeMahieu, $2,500, has actually shown signs of life. Like, it has not been consistent. There hasn't been consistent power. I mean, 2 home runs, 7 extra base hits in 55 games in general is pretty abysmal, but 308 his last 10 games. You get like the wraparound stack if you're playing a Judge Soto, possibly Verdugo at 2,500 or at 3,200 in the outfield. So I think LeMahieu and Solano make a lot of sense for as punts here.
Would you use our guy Ernie?
I mean, the righties have obviously been better against Davis Daniels, so I'm not against it.
Okay, just thinking the little Vladdy Ernie, play.
We don't have a Blue Jays lineup. I'm 930. I probably don't get it. Maybe we get it. If he continues to hit like upwards, I mean, they don't have anyone hitting well except Vladdy. It's really been and Alejandro Kirk. Like those are their 2 best players right now. So like, there's obviously a case for Ernie Clement to be hitting in that.
He's still hitting over 300 the last 10.
So if he is hitting in like a good spot in the lineup. Which I mean I shouldn't be picky. I literally just suggested LeMahieu hitting ninth, and so I
Well,
mean
the wraparound makes sense, and if Clement's down at the bottom of the lineup or at the top of the lineup, all that
yeah,
wraps in connects. So,
sure.
all right, shortstop, Bobby Witt, Mookie Betts returning, Corey Seager, O'Neal Cruz, Tyler Fitzgerald, Willie Adames. You're a 5K and above crew here. Seager was the cover of the morning show. Again, we know the power that Bayo gives up to lefties. Thoughts here at short?
Yeah, I mean above 5K, like there's obviously cases to be made for every name you just mentioned. Bobby Witt has been, the second best player in baseball, maybe. And that's just no fault of his own. Aaron Judge just exists in the world, so you can definitely get to Witt. I'm personally not playing Mookie Betts on his return. You can. It is, you mentioned it, Freddie Peralta, 1.7 home runs per nine to right-handed bats. So like that is definitely a good spot for Mookie, but 5,800 for a guy just coming off the IL, when you could play Seager, who's in like a better spot, like a similar but better spot, like Bayo over 2 home runs per nine to lefties, significantly worse numbers. Like the strikeout rate goes down, the fly ball rate goes up for Bayo, and you're putting Seager in Fenway. So I would still lean Seager. You could definitely play O'Neal Cruz against Musgrove. The only problem I'd say with using Pittsburgh in general, I don't think Musgrove's going to pitch very long. And then you get to that Padres bullpen, and they're like 8 deep. And then it's like,
and they can mix and match however they want.
However they want. They have lefties, they have righties. It doesn't matter. So, on the Cruz front, Fitzgerald, can steal bases. Obviously, has insane numbers against lefties.
Yeah.
And then Adames, not the good split for him, but he is very streaky. Home runs are flying out for him right now, and he's obviously been great in Milwaukee his whole career. So for me, it's Seager 1, Witt 2, and then everybody's kind of like distance behind them.
Sure.
But I have no problem getting like Seager, Witt.
Jaron Duran suspended 2 games. We got David Hamilton leading off tonight at $4,500. Any interest there in Hamilton?
Yes, I did. May or may not have gone on a pretty long tangent at him.
Good.
At second base.
Missed it while I was looking at some stats. We got Don here, Torres and Ortiz, second base. What would you take for a single entry?
Torres, Ortiz, Glaber.
Okay. Any value here at shortstop?
I do have interest in Zach Nato at 4,600 before we move on too far. He has been fairly incredible, and I know he has largely been incredible against left-handed pitching, but Bowden Francis, as good as he's been at times, he also hasn't. So, he has 14 RBIs. He has 22 runs and RBIs combined over his last 10 games. He has 4 home runs over that span, 8 extra base hits, and he's 3 home runs away from being a 2020 player. Like Zach Nato, one of the best breakout fantasy players in the game, and this is obviously the best stretch of his career right now. So 4,600 hitting second, I have interest in. Value, I know we talked about the Volpe stuff last night. I still am just like, I know I love the Yankees, and they're obviously the team with the highest implied run total. They're the team that is going to be the highest rostered. And I don't want to say like I'm sitting here not on Volpe. That would be like silly for me to say. Like I just have had a hard time having him as one of my pieces of my Yankee stack. Is that like, I don't know if that's fair to him. He just looks, again, where he's going through this stretch where he looks lost at the plate. His mechanics are different than what they were like literally 2 weeks ago when he was hitting everything. And he hasn't been that same guy he was last year against lefties either. Like last month against lefties, 44% strikeout rate. Like that.
I think he fits in variants of lineups. Obviously, if you're making multiple lineups tonight, or you're making multiple versions of Yankee stacks, like you're getting exposure no matter what. He's not like a full fade for me. I understand if you're making one lineup today or one stack, then maybe you would avoid that spot for him, especially at a position where we like a lot of the top end plays that, you don't necessarily need to go down to some of the value here. Volpe's there, Perdomo at $2,600, and they moved him down to 9, but he's just wrapping around then to Marte and that whole crew there for some cheap exposure there at shortstop as well.
Yeah, like again, I shouldn't not like it. I just
if you're making 10 lineups tonight, you're making 3 variants of a Yankee stack. You're going to include.
He's in plenty. Yeah, I mean he's in like 20 to 30%.
Yeah, Anthony's saying Perdomo and Solano help him get Judge Soto. Yeah,
I love Perdomo. Also, quick switch up there. Anthony about 20 minutes ago was fading Aaron Judge.
Yeah,
yeah. I think
now he's playing Del Castro at
that's
catcher.
So. I do think Perdomo, by the way, he's been excellent. I was hoping if we saw the Marte out of the lineup that we'd get like the Perdomo at the top again, or like near the top again. Obviously not the case, but I have no problem, as you mentioned with Volpe. It's like the wraparound thing, right? He's hitting 9th. If you're playing him, Corby, Marte, or him, Corby, Jock, like that, it all correlates pretty well. So yeah, I love Perdomo as well.
All right, let's get to the outfield where you have obviously Judge and Soto here with Ohtani as your top 3. Ozuna, Reynolds, Profar, the whole crew up at top 5K and above. We liked a lot of these plays. I'm certainly in on the 2 Yankees for sure. Any guys for you that we haven't really dug in on?
It's hard not to just say Judge. I'd say this. I'd say Judge and Soto are the clear top dogs over 5K, and then I love the 4K tier. That's what I will say. I think the 4K tier is littered with plenty of options. I'm not really testing the waters above. I think Profar is a great play on FanDuel because of his price. I do not think he is a great play at 5,300 on DraftKings. I'm good with an alt Padre stack if you're building multiple lineups, but there's just, I think 53 is just like,
Yeah. It's the prices we're not necessarily used to paying with some of these guys here. So you have that, like Kevin Pillar's 5K. I'm not spending 5K on Kevin Pillar. I do like Corbin Carroll at $4,600.
Yes,
leading off here today.
He is one of the many 4K players that I have a lot of interest in. We've said it for a little bit. Seems like question mark. He's back. It's been a lot of games with hits, a lot of power, a lot of runs scored, a lot of what Corbin Carroll did last year. So yeah, I have no problem getting to Corby. I think I saw a comment from Faisal asking for the home run call. My home run call is at the same price, 4,600, Giancarlo Stanton today, plus 215 over on DraftKings. We've had a lot of comments too about Giancarlo Stanton. I think Anthony said something about him being contrarian today. I think Don just asked a question about him. I think Giancarlo Stanton is one of the better Yankee plays of the day. They moved him up in the lineup. He's hitting 4th today. We have seen him hit 5th, 6th since returning. And I've said this about Giancarlo Stanton ad nauseum, like his whole career. When he is just hot, like he is worth the $315 million that he got. It's when he goes ice cold, we're like, this guy can't hit for anything. Why is he on my team? As a Yankees fan, I look and I'm like,
had he not missed 2 months, he might have 30 home runs by now.
Might have 30 home runs. I mean, we are talking about a guy who, whether he is off injured or not, when he is playing baseball, he is hitting a lot of home runs, and he hits them in bunches. And then again, you look up, and he's on that short list of guys. You're like, oh, 35 home runs for Giancarlo Stanton. He only played 120 games this year. It's like, yeah. So
even the 250 batting average you can live with, like when he's hitting like 220, like, you're like, but now he's going to go hit 250. Like, you're all in.
Yeah, I think Stanton is one of the better tournament plays and one of the better Yankee plays of the day.
Yeah.
Corbin, Stanton, Jackson Merrill,
I think Jackson Merrill for me with the switch to Woodford becomes like one of my favorite plays of the day.
Yeah, man. 1,000. This is his last month numbers against righties: 313 average, 672 slug, 359 ISO, 413 WOBA. That is just ridiculous. So
the league is fun, man. We got a lot of young, awesome players in the MLB right now.
I don't understand the 6th. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it that they've been so good, like so good. Padres are one of the best teams in baseball right now. maybe
Machado, you think you move him up?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, we're batting Donovan Solano 5th. We're batting Xander Bogaerts 4th. I like both those players. Neither of them are doing what Jackson Merrill is doing right now. So I don't know. It's like the Rangers. When Wyatt Langford started, they're like, yeah, let's just bat that guy 3rd. He's been as good as anybody, right?
And then he cooled off. Maybe they're just trying to not mess with Merrill going on with Merrill,
I'm absolutely sure that's what it is. Because like I remember as a baseball player, superstitions are real. Yeah. Only like they are when you play baseball. But like, I don't know. Maybe we'd get like clutch home runs in the 8th inning and not the 9th inning if he was hitting 3rd, right? We wouldn't have to worry about it. So Merrill is elite. You can play any of these Red Sox guys, Abreu and Yoshida. I think both are in really good spots.
Yeah.
Chorio 43 mashes lefties, no power, mashes lefties. Jock Peterson, a long list of guys with just absolute amazing numbers against righties over the last month and really all year. You have McCarthy 39. Like there is no shortage of elite players in this like upper 4K tier.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason you can't get Judge and Soto into your line or like because I think that's like the hope you're trying to get both those guys in. If you can't, like they're guys, you'll be okay. There's plenty of the 4K tier that
yeah, I mean, if you want to go even down a little cheaper, I think you can as well. Any outright value plays on the board for you?
Yeah, I mean, McCarthy 39 is elite. I do have some interest in Dalton Varsho 37. You know, the numbers have been better for righties against Davis Daniel, but Varsho has been better of late. Don't hate the lefties in Minnesota. Don't love them either. I think Verdugo is someone leading off a little bit interesting. Like, hasn't been great against lefties from like anything other than an average standpoint. Last month, 290 average against left-handed pitching. I think that's fine, 3,200. Obviously, he's going to be the one getting as many pitches to hit as possible. When you have the 3 guys behind him. I have mild interest too in David Peralta, who stacks right behind your Jackson Merrill. If you want to do a little Padres 6-7 stack, man, David Peralta has been pretty awesome lately. And this has always been a guy who's hit the baseball. That's the one thing he's always been able to do. Has been really good lately, and he's been really good against righties. I actually have both these guys written up in the playbook, Jackson Merrill, Peralta. So poetic that both of them are hitting next to each other. Last month, 298 average, 881 OPS, 228 ISO, 378 WOBA against righties. Those are elite numbers for a guy who's $2,700. So, I like the little Padres 6-7 stack. And if you want to throw it in there, Donovan Solano as well, you can literally, at that point, if you have a problem playing Judge Soto, something else in your lineup went horribly wrong.
Yep. You want to just be contrarian in Arizona? Alec Thomas is there, $2,500, super cheap play, and he's basically a home run or a strikeout. And more often than not, strikeout than home run. But we're betting on Blaylock not having that kind of success here tonight against that Arizona lineup. Benny Biceps. If there's one guy in Chicago's White Sox lineup that's doing anything right now, it's Benintendi. But that's probably the only other name. And I wouldn't even really play Benintendi. I'm just mentioning because he's hitting 3rd and hot right now. But it's probably it for me. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think there's.
All right. Let's go back to the beginning. Anthony wants to know what pitchers we like. I think we've talked about this quite a few times here this evening. Definitely on Louis Hill. We like Brendan Pfaadt. I like Blake Snell, but you can really play Snell or Sale as our 4 here.
Yeah, I would say those are the 4. Heel, Sale, Snell, Pfaadt. Those are like there is. I do if you're a multi-entry player, I do think Freddie Peralta is at least interesting. I know Mookie obviously adds depth to that lineup, but they have a massive strikeout rate against righties, and Freddie Peralta does that one thing really well. So,
all right, I got Hill, Pfaadt, and Del Castro in the lineup here.
Del Castillo, but
Castillo, Del Castillo.
Okay. Yeah. I would say I think Aaron Judge is, and if we can't get Judge, we'll save 500 to Soto. But I think
we can get Judge. That's fine. We need some value. which we know we have. We have McCarthy at 39.
Yep.
We got Bell at first base.
Glaber 36 at second. Or Lux at 31 if we need the money.
Glaber. That gives us 41, 33, third base, shortstop, and outfield.
I mean, third is another position we can save at. I think there's no shortage of players like Josh Smith down that we can possibly get. Smith, Ortiz, Solano, LeMahieu. So Clement, I'd be good with any of those players.
Let's see if we can get 47.50 if we use Solano.
Yeah, I mean, Corby or Stanton for me. I'm taking a stand on Giancarlo, so that's the direction I would lean tonight.
$4,800 shortstop gives us NATO as a one-off play, or
this is where you save on Volpe and then go up at third, possibly, or go up at pitcher to get like Snell.
Yeah, we could go up to Snell. That works. Let's go to Snell, Solano, and then 41 was Volpe. Sure. There we go. Got our little Yankee stack going on. Volpe, Judge, not Springer. No, not Stanton. Stanton, not Springer.
Stanton. Oh, Beezy in the chat.
What's up, Beezy? Ballard McCarthy.
That's a good question. I will say Josh Bell, but it's
more so about the position. I feel like we like more outfielders than we do first baseman.
I would say, I mean, that has to be a FanDuel question, I'm assuming. So I will say Josh Bell. I think there's obviously been more consistent power in his bat, but
that's true. YouTube question from BZ there. I get you.
Yeah, YouTube question.
Keith saying yo, what's up, Keith? Happy to have you in there. So Heel, Snell, Del Castillo, Bell, Torres, Solano, Volpe, Judge, McCarthy, Stanton. $500 left over for those who want to play around with some money. Get a different lineup. Look in there. You certainly can, but that's where we're going here tonight. Again, Grande's Playbook's out live. We appreciate you all tuning in with us. We'll be back here tomorrow. If you have any questions, get us in Discord. Find us on the X Machine, and we'll see you then.